the regular meeting. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Hamilton County School Board. Roll call, please, Ms. Ford.
Chairman Highlander.
Here.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Here.
Mrs. Hill. Here. Mrs. Lennon.
Here.
Mr. McClendon.
Here.
Mrs. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Thurman.
Here.
Mr. Wingate.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Superintendent Dr. Jones.
Here.
Thank you all. Our first order of business is the election of officers for next year. And I would like to make a brief statement before we do that. It has been my privilege to serve as chair for the last 2 years. We have had very interesting and active 2 years. Some people say the most tumultuous that we've had in a long time. But I'm thankful for the opportunity and privilege. I'm willing to serve, and I'm also willing to pass the mantle. George Washington said 2 terms was sufficient. He went back home to Mount Vernon. Now, I'm still going to be on the board, but I'm more than willing to pass the mantle. So it's whatever the board desires. I believe now, correct me, Mr. Bennett, we're ready to take nominations for the chairman of the board for the next year.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Joe Wingate.
We have Mr. Wingate nominated. Do we have a second?
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, nominated second. Do we have another? So then do I make a move that we put Mr. Wingate in by acclamation? Well, since he's the only one, we can go. Can we not request?
Yeah, absolutely.
I will make the move that we do. If all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So done. Mr. Wingate, here is your gavel. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not acclamation. We have one opposed. So we'll vote then.
We just did.
We can vote individually.
We can vote individually. That's no
Mrs.
problem. We can vote individually.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
No.
Mrs. Lennon.
Yes.
Mr. McClendon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Mr. Wingate.
Yes.
Chairman Highlander.
Yes.
Congratulations, Joe.
I'm probably out of order here, but I would ask, I haven't had the chance to work with Dr. Highlander for a year and 2 months, if we could just give Dr. Highlander a hand for his service.
I did also want to tell Steve thank you. Thank you for your service, Steve.
Thank you.
Are you still going to bring us sausage?
Well, that was going to be my question. The amount of hours this man has sacrificed, and I know that Dr. Johnson does, but going to meetings that he didn't have to go to, and just giving of his life, and to serve kids and families, and Dr. Highlander, thank you.
Thank you. I will say my wife was very supportive of the service, but she'll probably say, "Thank you, God." She said you had a target on your back as a member. All of us have targets that people question, but when you're the chair, your name is the first one on the list, and they have a tendency. Thank you for changing those. I'm not nearly as handsome and young as Mr. Wingate, so change the name, but thank you very much. And I appreciate Joe. Anything I can do to help you, I promise you, I'm at your beck and call.
Well, I know that. Thank you. And I too appreciate your service. Like I've said before, Dr. Highlander, I don't know of another time in my lifetime on the school board that we had as many challenges and adversity as we dealt with. And thank you for, I think all of us would agree, for being steady and being here we could call and get advice from encouragement. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
At this time, I guess we need to take nominations for vice chair. Is that correct? Okay.
I'd like to nominate Tiffany Robinson as vice chair.
We need to get a second on that.
I'll second that.
to nominate Rhonda Thurman. Let me also say, because this may come as a surprise to some, I don't always agree, and all of us don't always agree on the things that go on, but the mountain of respect that I have for Rhonda Thurman, and she served for so many years, and a lot of times people get upset, and I even accuse her sometimes of drinking vinegar and looking for something to get mad about. I do. But you're always going to get the truth. And, you know, in any organization, whether it be a school board or whatever, it would seem to me what should come with that at a point in time, maybe toward the end of one's time of service, I don't know, but if for no other reason, there's many reasons I could give, but if for no other reason, just the tremendous amount of respect and admiration for what Rhonda has done. I'll bring home the milk, honey. I want to nominate Rhonda Thurman.
Okay, do we have a second?
For the same reasons, I will second. Rhonda's service, and I appreciate what Ms. Tiffany's done, 14 years service, in honor of that, I would second that.
All right, any other nominations? All right, we're ready for the vote.
Mrs. Hill?
So,
Are we on vote?
Call
I call by name.
either Ms. Robinson or Mr.
Robinson. Mrs. Jones?
Thurman.
Mrs. Lennon?
Robinson.
Mr. McClendon?
Robinson.
Mrs. Robinson?
Robinson?
Mr. Smith?
Thurman.
Mrs. Thurman?
Thurman.
Mr. Wingate?
Robinson.
Chairman Howard?
Thurman.
I'm sorry. I'm so, it's such a habit.
It's all right.
Mr. Allen. Okay. Robinson.
Okay, congratulations, Ms. Robinson.
I would like to say that Caritza, I'd like to thank her for her service the past 2 years. She's been an outstanding vice chair, and I've enjoyed.
I don't know how you're gonna make it. Tiffany will help you.
If I could say, Mr. Chairman, as former chair, Ms. Carissa was always beneficial to help me in anything I needed. She was always had good advice and was wise, and I appreciate it very much. And she's like a daughter to me.
Chris, yes, thank you for your service. We appreciate that for 2 years. All right, so now I guess we need to talk about amendments.
One more.
Sorry.
Yeah. Legislative network.
Okay. All right, so we take a nomination for legislative network then, please. Was that Mr. Testament, is that correct? That's right, okay. All right.
Kathy was the last one.
Okay.
Can you describe the job description? It's a liaison position with TSBA, is that correct, Kathy?
Yes.
Can you maybe tell them a little bit more?
Really, you go to the Class Act, the meetings. I had one at the TSBA conference, and there's another meeting in the year, and you just kind of keep up with the changes that occur with legislation, and it helped me. What it helped me with was policy, and that kind of is what inspired me to do the updates with the policy because of all the changes that consistently happen with legislation. I did not realize that until I went to the TSBA convention and I heard all of the changes that consistently happen all the time with with the legislation, so they consistently update you on those changes. And they have a meeting at the TSBA convention, and they also have a meeting in the spring that you are invited to attend. And they're very, very informative, and they have I'm sorry that I can't think of the liaison that I am connected with, and they continually send you updates and emails, and you can always reach out and ask them questions. So yes, it's a very important position that we have with the TSBA.
Doesn't it also require some travel on your part and stuff that?
Yes, it does require the TSBA, it's important to go to that meeting, and then the second meeting was also in Nashville this year.
To the point that Steve were making about Rhonda's service, Rhonda, is that something that you would be interested in doing?
Absolutely not, no.
Oh.
It's a lot of travel.
It's a lot of
And
stress.
also, do you not also, I think Mr. Testament had gone in the past, had gone to legislative sessions at the House and the.
Yes, and I did not do I didn't go to the TSBA Day on the Hill this year.
And there are 2 or 3 other
They
days.
didn't have it this year. They did not have the legislative session this year for some reason, and I don't know why, but
The year before, though, didn't you?
yes, they had it the year before, but I wasn't a representative.
And there are 2 or 3 other days that
And
are offered.
I don't know why they didn't have it this year. I don't know if it was because of they weren't in session. I'm not real sure, but they sent out an email. But I was thinking, Tucker, I don't know if you would be interested with your background with political science and just graduating. I don't know if that's something you would be interested in. I was thinking you might be interested in that, unless there's somebody else that would be interested in that.
Well, I would be interested, but I have many commitments, so if Tucker is especially so, then.
I mean, I would do it if you want to do it, you can have it, but I would be more than.
Well, I'll take it then.
Okay.
Well, let's,
Watch
so,
out for me,
so,
Nashville, I'm coming for you.
so, do we have a nomination?
Yeah, I'll nominate Jenny Hill.
I second.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Okay, do we need to vote, or we just all say aye?
You can ask if there's a motion to do it by acclamation,
Okay.
and if there is an objection to it, then you vote, but if there's no objection.
Okay, do we have an objection to a motion by acclamation? So can I get a motion by acclamation?
Aye.
I'll move to vote by acclamation.
Okay,
Any objection?
none? All right, Jenny, congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, now let's, we've got one amendment,
Actually, two.
Okay,
Somebody
second
signed
one.
in as a delegate, and that sheet is.
I got you. Okay, so 2 amendments. Under delegations, we need to add Megan Phillips. And then also, under item 10, on the consent agenda, C1, bids and contracts, we're gonna remove item 1B regarding graduation 2019.
Where's Megan Phillips from?
It says incident regarding Durham School Services. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
right? We have the vote.
Mr. Holland,
Yes.
Mrs. Hill,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon,
Yes.
Mr. McClendon,
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Chairman Wingate.
Yes. All right. Now we will have Ms. Kim Roden, principal of Saudi Elementary, come lead us in the pledge to the flag and our meditation.
I messed up my reading, all this movement going on. Chairman Wingate, Superintendent Johnson, and Hamilton County Board members, Saudi Elementary is proud to be a part of this board meeting. September 21st is Peace Day. Our art teacher, Ms. Amber Wood, and our guidance counselor, Ms. Lisa Blakely, work together to help students learn about how to promote peace in our school community and neighborhoods. Students engaged in the Pinwheels for Peace project, and the pinwheels will be on display at our school in the morning. Students were able to make the pinwheels and use them to display ways to show peace and what that meant to them. Our school also participates in the Kindness Matters program. Students are able to nominate each other for acts of kindness that they observe. A group is chosen to be recognized with a certificate and a shirt each quarter. Students help make the decision of who should be recognized in that way. Through these programs, we're trying to show children how they can make a difference in their school, community, and in their individual lives. I would like to read part of an essay from a 5th grader about these programs and what they mean to her. Macy Moss wrote, "Pinwheels for Peace and Kindness Matters have special meanings. They show kindness and peace to all of us. It means to always be kind and share opportunities to show peace around the schools, cities, state, countries, and continents. Showing peace is being kind at the same time. When someone shows kindness, it spreads around all of us to create peace in our class or school. It can mean peace and quiet, as we know we like that, but also can mean standing up for what is right to spread peace. Being kind can also make peace between two people in conflict. Showing these traits can help people make a difference." Each day we at Saudi and all of us make choices. Sometimes we make good choices and sometimes we make bad choices. We want our staff and students to ask each morning, what can we do today that will make a difference for others? One of my favorite quotes says, "This is the beginning of a new day. You have been given this day to use as you will. You can waste it or use it for good. What you do today is important because you are exchanging a day of your life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever. In its place is something that you left behind. Let it be something good." Let's stand for the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just for the record, Kim is from Saudi Elementary. We also have a Daisy Elementary, so I didn't let her get away with that. There is a Saudi and a Daisy, so she's cool.
All right, next, could I have Ms. Neely Parker, Mr. Robert Sharp come, please, for our T-Boss recognition.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Dr. Johnson, Chairman Wingate, and members of the board. At this time, we would like to recognize the following schools that have earned Level 5, the highest level of student growth in the recent Tennessee Value-Added System, or TVOS, for the 2018 school year. These schools received a Level 5 in all content areas. So we would like to recognize McConnell Elementary, East Ridge Middle School, and Loftus Middle School at this time. We don't have a representative here tonight from the schools.
We can trust you to get it to them.
We will make sure it gets there. Thank you.
Nearly, I have them right here. I hope they were notified to be here. Because I didn't know this was coming, so I thought they were notified, but my goodness, what a great job. At least my two schools up there, I'm sure they all are, but I'm just bragging on my two. But I'll make sure that they get this.
All right, moving forward. Next, we would like to recognize the Tennessee Principal of the Year Award. This is given annually to a school leader for outstanding service in education and exceptional leadership that drives overall improvements in his or her school. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Marthel Young to the podium from East Brainerd Elementary. Dr. Young has been named the 2018 Principal of the Year for Hamilton County Schools, and she's also been named one of the 9 finalists for the 2018-2019 Tennessee Principal of the Year, which will be announced on October 4th. We're so proud that Dr. Young will represent our Hamilton County schools. I would also like to invite Mr. William Young up at this time with Marthel. I know he's a great supporter.
Chairman of the Board, Joe Wingate, and all board members. I am honored to represent Hamilton County Schools. It has been a pleasure and an honor to work here in Hamilton County for 30+ years. But most of all, it has been an honor and a pleasure to work with such stellar educators and principals and administrators here in Hamilton County. And I trust that I will represent well. Thank you so much.
Dr. Young, will you come up and shake your hand, please?
I can also say in attendance, Dr. Young's sisters are here, Aquilette and Hallie. Thank you for coming.
As Mr. McClendon mentioned, he asked me not to try to steal his school, and I have gone over there a lot here recently. It's an interesting dynamic. The school used to be in District 7, and then when the new building was built, it's just outside the district, but many of those families live in my district, so I do try to frequent there a lot. But there's plenty to share because it's the largest elementary school in the county, I believe.
Yes.
It is. And I was in there Tuesday. I probably spent about 4 hours there, and that school is just amazing. I'm a East Brainerd Elementary alumni, so it kind of warms my heart to see that school succeed like it has for the last couple of years under Dr. Young.
Okay, so next we will have our delegations. The first will be Ms. Jeanette O'Markle from HCDE, and if you would, let Ms. Robinson here say what she needs to.
All right, it's my first go at it, so. Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individual board members or administrators. Also, do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact the central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent. If I believe you are criticizing an individual employee, I will interrupt you and ask you to refrain. If you continue to criticize individual employees, or if, in my opinion, your remarks are an error or are becoming repetitive, I may interrupt you and ask you to sit down. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will tell you when you have 1 minute left. You may begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chairman Wingate. Congratulations, Dr. Johnson and board members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak again this week. According to the 2017 Barna report, Chattanooga is the most churched city in the country. For several months, I've heard the call for our faith communities to get more involved in our public schools, and although many are doing great things, it is a just and a needed request. I wanted to share with you an opportunity to move this forward. This summer, I had the privilege of meeting and hearing Dr. Charles Foster Johnson speak at an educators event in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Dr. Johnson is the executive director of the nonprofit organization called Pastors for Texas Children. It is an independent ministry and outreach group of nearly 2,000 pastors and church leaders from across Texas. Its mission is to provide wraparound care and ministry to local schools, principals, teachers, staff, and school children, to advocate for children by providing free public education system, to promote social justice for children, and to advocate legislation that enriches children, families, and communities, such as adequate funding of public education. They believe a free public education is will be in Chattanooga on Tuesday, October the 2nd for a lunch meeting. You are all invited to attend the luncheon where he will be sharing his story and talking about our faith community, how we in Hamilton County can join the effort. The luncheon is graciously being hosted by Reverend William Ladd at First Baptist Church on 8th Street. And we want to have enough for all to eat, so please be sure to RSVP to president@hcedeeducators.org. I have flyers that have the information to share with your clergy and lay leaders. I'm going to give them to Jill, the pastor. You just didn't know that, did you? I am very excited about how this event will allow our faith groups the opportunities to collaborate together and support and strengthen our schools. Thank you, and I hope you're all able to attend, even in the audience.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Megan Phillips.
Good evening, Chairman, Superintendent, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. As a mother of a school-aged child, I am deeply grateful for the time and attention that you give to this board. My name is Megan Phillips. My son, Trey Phillips, is a kindergartner at East Ridge Elementary School. I'm here today to assert my belief that for the safety of our children, we must not renew our contract with Durham School Services, and as a county, we must create expectations for the next bus service we employ that promote the safety and well-being of our children. On August 17th, the first time he rode the bus home from school, Trey's bus driver dropped him off 1.5 miles away from his correct bus stop in an unfamiliar neighborhood without any parent, guardian, or even adult in the visible vicinity. He had a bus rider tag on his backpack that listed the correct stop, but this driver, who had been employed by Durham for over 1 year, did not follow protocol and left my son alone and defenseless. She forgot about him, about his well-being and his safety. I'm sure your imaginations are reeling, as mine is, with visions of the horrific, even fatal consequences that could have happened, all due to this employee's egregious act of gross negligence. Durham School Services fosters a company culture of incompetence and negligence that often puts our children in harm's way. Despite their promises, little has changed in the way Durham operates since the Woodmore tragedy. I spoke with Karina Noble, Senior Vice President of Communications and External Affairs for Durham School Services, after Trey's bus incident. I asked her how many incidents of negligence and child endangerment are reported in her company nationwide per year. She informed me that Durham does not track that data. I asked her how many complaints had been filed at that time in Hamilton County against Durham drivers for the school year. She informed me that there had been 36 online complaints filed at that point, and it had only been 2 weeks. I asked how many complaints were filed via phone and email. She didn't know, but she said she would follow up. I asked how many complaints were filed against Trey's particular bus driver in the year she was employed. And again, she didn't know. She promised she would get back with me. I pointed out to her, as I'm pointing out to you, that the cameras they installed and the online complaint portal that they boast, while important, were merely reactive. What good did either do if their drivers are conducting themselves the way they should and following the protocols their company puts in place? So I asked Karina if Durham planned on implementing any proactive, precautionary solutions to prevent other children from being put in danger. Unless you count her silence and hesitation as a deafening no, she didn't have an answer. Once more, she promised to follow up. It's been 1 month to the day, and I haven't heard from Durham. They forgot my son again. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you care about our children. I know you actively fight for their success and their well-being. I am asking you today to please, please stand up for their safety. We can and must do better for our children. Do not renew Durham's contract for the next fiscal year. Instead, invest in a company with policies and procedures that prioritize our children's safety. Invest in a company that implements proactive steps that ensure our children make it home in one piece. As a county, we must set forth our own expectations that promote the welfare and safety of our children and outline those expectations to each company who desires to bid on our bus routes. First, we must require that the company we employ put bus monitors on all buses with elementary-aged school children. A second set of eyes, one more check from an adult with accountability, would have prevented my son from getting off at the wrong stop. Second, we must require that the company we employ provides quarterly updates to the school board that are then posted publicly, delineating the complaints that they've received, if any of those complaints have been involved child endangerment in any way, and the steps that they've done to take care of those. And third, we must require that the company we employ holds its own employees accountable as we hold them accountable by embracing a company culture of safety and care. Thank you for your time, and I hope you make the right choices for our children.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. All right. Next we've got a Future Ready 2023 update. Is that right?
So I want to update you on a few areas. First being Jill, Ken, and Keith will update you from 3 different areas around academics, operations, as well as county. So I'll turn it over to Keith this time. Jill.
I think it's me actually. So just as a reminder, let's see, let me get us to the right slide. There we go. There's five areas in our Future Ready strategic plan, and the first one being accelerating student achievement. So just a few updates for you on a couple of the categories there. So we have, oops, sorry, I'm looking at 2 screens. 5 key strategies: deeply understanding state standards, setting clear learning targets, building strong or rigorous assessments, aligned assessments, implementing best practices, and closing the opportunity gap. I have updates for you on numbers 2 and 3 tonight: the clear learning targets and building rigorous aligned assessments. So first, I think I spoke with you last month about clear learning targets. The idea there is that in every classroom with every lesson, there should be a clear learning target that states what a student should know and be able to do by the end of that lesson. It should be in kid-friendly language, and every student should know what the learning target is. If we really do a good job with this, when your kids come home to you at the end of the day, you should be able to ask them what their clear learning targets were today. Have any of you tried that yet? Just out of curiosity. Yes, you tried it? Okay, good job. That's the goal. That takes time. It takes time to get there. But as administrators and central office team, as we go into schools with principals, everybody's asking that question of kids now. What are you working on today? What's the clear learning target? And we're learning a lot about sort of how that's going. It's exciting when students are really able to articulate that. So we had training for all of our administrators on this in August, and a PowerPoint was created that then administrators and coaches rolled out to their faculties when they got back. So everybody has had professional development, and now we're in the process as we do our school walkthroughs of really seeing how this is going in classrooms, and also finding exemplars, places where it's working really, really well. Let's see. Slide. The second part of this, step 3, is building rigorous aligned assessments. A lot of work has taken place over the summer with this. So one thing is that we adopted Mastery Connect, which is a program that allows teachers to build online assessments. There's a whole bank of questions that are connected to our standards that can be used. So we call that formative assessment. So a teacher might have 3 or 4 questions at the end of a lesson, or a quick assessment on a Thursday or a Friday to see what students have learned and how well they've mastered the concept. So that's one piece. We have super users on every campus who receive extra professional development and are responsible then for going back and training their faculties and supporting faculties at every school with that. We also have benchmark assessments, and you'll be hearing about those because those are happening as early as next week in some places. So our high schools that are on a block schedule will start giving their benchmark assessments on the 24th. The rest of our district will start giving the first benchmark assessment on October 1st. And these are assessments that are very closely aligned to the TN Ready assessment. So CASE was the company that we worked with to do this. And what we are learning is that they're very predictive of how students will do actually on the test at the end of the year. It will also allow us, we'll get this data back within 72 hours of the students taking the assessment. So when we think about real-time data and teachers being able to make decisions based on assessments that have occurred, this will be a really strong tool for that. It also will give us some comparative information. So, for example, with the 3 middle schools in the Opportunity Zone, they'll be able to look and compare their data from one to another. And if there's a certain, let's say that one school has a really strong score in fractions and another school doesn't, they can talk about, well, what did you do differently? How did you teach that? So we can look for sort of some exemplars of excellence there as well. So the next steps there, one is that we will continue to monitor and refine the use of the clear learning targets across the entire district and continue to have professional development. As teachers come together to design curriculum, they're now collaborating on those clear learning targets. I'll give you an example. I was at Barber Academy today, and I went from one classroom to the next, and the clear learning targets were the same in all of the first grade classrooms. So we could see that teachers were really planning together and supporting each other in that process. And that becomes powerful when people work together around those things. And then finally, we'll start data review sessions. So as soon as we get that benchmark data back, we'll be able to start to build collaborative sessions around that to look at, what does this tell us about our teaching and our students' learning, and what are our next steps in terms of instruction. Any questions? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Keith.
I'm going to update on great teachers and great leaders. Just to remind you, as we look at our key areas of key strategies, is recruit, retain talent, competitive total rewards, stimulate professional learning and growth. We want to grow our leaders, and we want to develop our classified employees. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 specific areas: recruit and select top talent, talking about our processes and technology. I'll be talking about retain talent, mentoring and induction programs, and then stimulate professional growth and learning, our new teacher academy that supports the growth and development of our teachers. I'll go through each of these in more detail. So recruit and select top talent. We're in the midst of a process and technology evaluation. We're working with the New Teacher Project through a grant from the Community Foundation. As we go through this project, some of the objectives that we're targeting is, first of all, it's a process and technology evaluation, so that's at the forefront. But we also are going to be looking at what's working and what's not, what needs improving. And then as a result of that activity, we'll have recommendations coming out for improvement. Some of the areas that we're focusing on is our brand management. And so when you think about brand management, what we're looking at is the applicant experience. How that we're going to utilize our website, social media to be able to attract candidates. Vacancy management is really how we manage our vacancies and the metrics that support that. Of course, recruitment and our talent pipelines, retention and attrition. And then we want to be sure that our staff roles are aligned with what we're trying to accomplish from a technology and process standpoint. Really looking at how we can be more efficient and effective. You can see our project schedule there, kind of 2 or 3 key dates in that. Early October, we'll be looking at a kind of a mid-project review, and then final recommendations in mid-November. I want to take just a second and show you some staffing metrics that we're currently using. We review these in Dr. Johnson's senior leadership team on a weekly basis. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the years look like. June 3rd, we were with 572 positions posted. We filled 450 of those. As the year went along, we transitioned early in June. Actually, we transitioned to a different looking report. Did it by learning communities, so that we had a understanding of what was going on within in each learning community, as well as the corporate office or system-wide type vacancies. And as you can see, we through that course of a couple of months went from 736 positions and filled 707. The bottom table is just a sample of how we track open positions. And kind of the key thing to note there is that over on the far right-hand corner, we track the days open. We use a green, yellow, red coding so that we can kind of keep our eyes focused on and keep our team focused on the vacancies that need attention. Let me move on to retain talent and stimulate professional learning and growth. Talk about two things. Earlier this year, we briefed you on our plans for our new teacher academy, as well as what we were hoping to accomplish with new hire orientation. Our new teacher academy was a 4-day session this year, and we worked on that in partnership with Stephanie Hinton's organization. They really helped support this activity and gave us a lot of focus and attention to help pull this off. But when you looked at what we wanted to accomplish in this academy, it was focused on relationships in the classrooms with parents and in the school. And you see, we had a lot of teachers attend. We had a lot of presenters participating. But I want to draw your attention. One of the things we're really excited about is our first-year teacher mentors. And during this academy, we did a training session for the mentors and had them at a networking lunch with the new teacher that they were going to serve as a mentor to. So that gave them an opportunity to have their first connection. We're very pleased with the community support that we received through sponsorships and donations. Our new hire orientation is our focus around recruit until the first day of school. And in those orientations, what we focused on was developing some networking among the new hires. We also did a really kind of an HCDE 101, things that employees need to know, ranging all the way from what's our goal, fastest improving district in the state of Tennessee, pointed out some of the strategic things that we were working on, and then of course talked to them about benefits and down to the very issues of being sure they could sign on to their email. We also was able to provide information for the teachers about upcoming professional development and help them be able to sign up for those activities. You can see the number of sessions and folks that attended. We had over 450 new hires, both from the teachers as well as classified staff that participated in these orientations, and got good feedback about the topics we covered. Take just a moment to thank the sponsors for the New Teacher Academy. Really appreciate their support as we went through this activity. Next steps, first of all, we want to continue to implement our New Teacher Academy. Over the course of the school year, we'll continue to have professional development for them. And then one key activity is start to develop our plan for year 2 and year 3 supports. With the new teacher project, we're going to be, I mentioned the midpoint check-in in October and of course recommendations, and then we'll be working on an action plan with a schedule in November. I want to mention just quickly our after-action review that we're doing with our 2018 staffing. This is internal to my staff, And what we're doing is looking at all the activities that supported 2018 staffing, beginning with our spring recruiting event and all the way through, looking at our timelines, our processes, documents that we're collecting, orientation session, and really having the staff take a critical look at what we're doing. And we're going to, of course, combine that with the effort and the information that we get back from TNTP. Finally, we also are continuing to work on technology and reporting enhancements. Really a lot of focus around developing reports and analytics that will help us support our staffing and recruiting. Any questions?
I have a question for you. What are we currently doing for exit interviews? I know this is a little off topic, but at one point, I think earlier in the year, not school year, just earlier in 2018, it was kind of unclear what we were doing around exit interviews. Has a new process been put into place, or is there anything new taking place with exit interviews?
So we do exit interviews. Two things. We, as soon as we have a action occur, a termination action occur, it sets off a workflow that we send out a email to the employee to get their feedback. We found a glitch in it because sometimes that wasn't occurring before it was going to their HCDE email. So we're having to go back and do a little retrofitting to make sure that we're getting that exit interview to the candidate or to the employee as they're exiting. So.
Is there any situation where their survey that comes back calls for you to have like a face-to-face exit interview with them?
No.
Not really?
Not
Okay.
really.
My area is efficient and effective operations. We have 5 key strategies in my area. I will provide you an update of 2 of the 5. That will be established long-term plan for transportation model, and establish long-term plan for facilities, maintenance, and capital improvements. Last month, if you recall, I shared with you that we were considering a new concept called bus coaches. We do have bus monitors provided by Durham, but in addition to the bus monitors, we heard our bus drivers and they needed additional support. So we decided to pilot the bus coaching concept in the Opportunity Zone. We're proud to say that 5 schools in the O Zone have found teachers or staff who are interested. That's Barger, Eastlake, Hardy, Orchard Knob requested 2, and Woodmore. The coaches will go through training next week, and we look forward to them riding the bus starting October 1st. The second area is evaluate the district-wide transportation needs in preparation for the new RFP. We are gathering information, data. We hear all of our parents, all of the concerns, and we're going to try to write a proposal that will address all of the needs so that any organization that's interested in bidding, that they'll know all of the unique concerns of Hamilton County. In November, we should complete the RFP, and I put it out for the announcement. December through January, we will look at all of the proposals, and hopefully by March we'll be making a recommendation to the Board of Education. Also in the spring, we are looking at upgrading our routing system. We currently use Edgelog, and it does. It's a pretty good system, but we need a system that's going to provide a little bit more detail. We're piloting several systems from companies, and we hope to have a system that integrates with our student information system, PowerSchool, so that we can pinpoint, and when parents want to know where their children are, we can either have them identify them on an app. So we want to be very creative, so it's going to take a little time, but we need to actually put out the RFP for that pretty soon. We heard our parents loud and clear about the high school bell schedule. Some of the high schools start extremely early. Actually, we attempted to adjust and modify some of the bell schedules just before school started, but we ran out of time, and we did not want it to be a disaster, so we're gonna use this year. But not only the high school, we're gonna look at all of the bell schedules, look at the traffic flow in the city, and see if we need to look at the tiered concept. Some schools have 2 tiers, some schools have 3 tiers. So we're gonna take a comprehensive look at all of our bell schedules with an attempt to kind of streamline that as well.
I have a question
Yes,
about the RFP for transportation. I've had several constituents ask me a question about whether it would ever be feasible for Hamilton County Schools to actually manage our own bus program rather than contracting it out. Is that part of this thought process with the RFP at this point, or is that on the table at all?
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, everything is on the table.
Everything is on the table.
And Chrissy probably chimed in, I believe about 2 years ago, before I even got here, Chrissy put the numbers together for what it would cost as far as transportation is concerned. I think everything will be on the table, but I will also say that, you know, we have to be mindful when you bring a whole busing system in-house. There are a lot of moving pieces, from mechanics to routing to just a lot of nuanced pieces outside of just, you know, rolling the buses. So all those will be things we have to consider, and staffing needs and things like that if you ever went internal. But all that, you know, definitely be part of the conversation and looking at the options.
Good question. Dr. Holland, go ahead.
We did, as Mr. Wingate probably remembers, we did look at that. Christie, correct me if I'm wrong, to get an integrated bus system at that time, it would cost about $10 million.
To purchase the buses.
To purchase the buses alone. We do have a facility that we lease to Durham right now. But last year, and I wanted to address the lady that had the real severe concerns about her child, and I appreciate that very much. And I have grandchildren that age, and that would break my heart to think about that. But we did not have, we sent out the RFP last time, Durham was the only person who submitted a bid. So we do need to get started early, and as I think Ms. Robinson mentioned once before, we need to start early on this and get it out as soon as possible so that we can hopefully get another bid. But it would be wonderful to have our own, but we're looking at $10 million.
Ms. Thurman? Yes, there's also something you have to figure into this equation. We also have a lot of people who have purchased buses on our word that they were going to have a job. And so a lot of these people put their houses up and stuff to buy buses. And I for one, I'm not for doing that to these people. Also, there are a lot of other things that we can look at, and I think that we've spoken about some of those, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them as well. This is a whole lot more complicated than a lot of people understand. One thing, we're transporting too many students, and we shouldn't be transporting, because if you don't have enough bus drivers, you can't get enough bus drivers. And the very idea that some people think that we need to set up more bus routes is crazy, because we can't even get drivers for the routes we already have. And the way that we can make sure that the students are taken care of better is to pare it down and let parents be responsible for getting their kids to school that can get their kids to school and should get their kids to school, in my opinion, and magnet schools. But that's another talk another day. But there are a lot of reasons we can't get bus drivers, and I know one is discipline, and we're going to talk about that. I know some more later on buses. That's one of our problems. The bus drivers get distracted with the behavior on some of the buses. Then I'm glad to see that some of these teachers are taking. Have we offered that to other schools as well, or just these schools?
Just the 5, we're going to pilot it first.
You're going to pilot it first. You don't trust the teachers or something?
Funding. No, it's not.
Okay, I'm just wondering if they were the only ones that were doing, and also the EduLaw computer. You can get all the computers you want, but they're never going to do as well as seasoned bus drivers that know the direction you need to head on the streets. EduLaw computers show you the roads, but they don't show you the line curves. They don't show you the dangerous situations that some of these kids are in. They don't show you that it's better to pick kids up on this side of the road than the other side of the road. I know EduLaw at one time had the buses running like across the river, because we had the same names of streets across the river, running like they were going to run through the river and pick kids up. I mean, running the same routes. Had them turning around in the middle of Montlake Mountain on roads that were too too is short for us to go on. So, I mean, a lot of this is gonna require a lot of help from seasoned bus drivers that know we can cut down these routes a lot. I mean, some of these buses that I know some of our other board members know that have very, very few kids on these buses, we need to look at that. We need to look at the whole kit and caboodle and get the whole thing redone. Ms. Jones?
In looking at the tier system, I remember when I was in school, I went to a magnet school, but on our bus, and I'm saying this because in my neighborhood, there's a bus of magnet kids, and they get off at Food City on Highway 58, and the bus is not full. The only reason why I'm saying that is because I remember being a magnet student myself and going to CSAs. When I got on the bus, I also got on the bus with students that were going to, at that time it was Phoenix 2 and Phoenix 3, which is now Norman Park and CA. And so we would all get on the bus together. They drop us off, and then they go to city, which is pretty much what we call it. They drop them off, and then on the way home, they pick them up, come back there and pick us up and take us home. So the bus was always full, but it was I guess a combining of schools or combining of routes. So that's something that we're gonna look at as well. Even, I guess, magnet and traditional, because you have some schools that they're within 5 to 10 minutes of start time, so they're there like right around the corner. So that's something to look at as well. I will say for me, I struggle with the whole bus thing because I'm not a fan of Durham, and Durham knows I'm not a fan of Durham. For various reasons, nothing personally against any employee that works there because they work for a company like I work for a company, and we don't always agree with them when we work there. I too would like for us to look at presenting our own system, or figuring out some agreeable system with the contract drivers, but I'm not in the business of overpaying them and overcompensating them either, and I'm just gonna be honest about that as well. I understand they purchased a bus, but I mean, my cousin owned a nail salon, she purchased a building, she went out of business, she lost her building. I mean, I know that sounds very harsh, but I'm just saying that's what happens when you invest in businesses. So I would just like for us to figure out some other options for that, because I am not a fan of our current provider, but I also feel like when you go with another provider, be it First Steps or whoever, you're still in contracting out, you still run the risk of not being able to do as much. Because I know when you get the complaints, we run it, you all handle it, and I know that for a fact, because I probably was 12 of them 30 suits that they first had in the first 2 weeks. But once it gets to Durham, they're not accountable to us the way they should be, I feel like. So I would like for us to look at those 2 things, because I can't say that I probably support Durham coming back, even if they were our only. I did it the last time because that's all we had. I know kids had to get to school, but I'm not sure if I could do that a second time.
Ms. Robbins?
I was just curious, are we gonna see the RFP draft next month?
Say
As a
again?
board, will we see the RFP draft next month before it actually goes out? Would you let us see that before it goes out? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Phillips, I'm sorry. I hadn't heard anybody say that. I'm sorry you had to go through this, and your child had to go through this. I'm sorry. No excuse. You shouldn't have it. And I'm sorry that you had to go through this. You know, I haven't been around too long, but I've been around long enough to know that probably one of the most complicated things that we have to deal with is transportation. And I'm not the sharpest guy in the world, but I can see the multitude of problems that we have with transportation. A couple of comments, and then there'll be a question in here. I don't understand why some time ago, not too long after I came on this board, we, the board, agreed to allow our independents to bid and get more routes. Didn't we?
Yes.
And with the recent new contract, that wasn't allowed for whatever reason. I don't know what that was about, but it wasn't. So that's troublesome to me, because I think those are the guys that's been around for years. I mean, you got independent drivers that have been around for 40 years. Now, I don't understand, I just told you this privately, why y'all are calling on those guys to help you in fixing some of these routes. And I tell you, I was at Brainerd High School the other day. I see Mr. Freeman back there. And I'm blown away with what's going on with our future ready institutes. I mean, I was emotional as I looked at all these great opportunities we're giving kids. I mean, it's amazing. But we're not getting them there. But if I've got a child that's qualified to go to a magnet school somewhere, and I live on one other end of the county, you'll get my kid to that. It's not okay. We've got a lot of transportation problems. Now, I'm not smart enough to think I know the answer. But I do believe it needs to be way high on our to-do list to fix some of these things, because our kids aren't being treated fairly. When we've got parents that can afford to transport their child to a magnet school across town, but we're doing it. But yeah, we got a child that wants to go to Brainerd High School to be in the aviation program, and we're telling the parent we can't get him there. It's not okay. I've seen buses with one kid going from a school in my district all the way to the other side of town to a magnet school. One kid. It's not okay. And I know it's complicated, and I wish I had the answer. I don't. And I support you guys and applaud you guys and what you got to do to fix this. But it would seem to me that it's got to be fixed before you can have an accurate RFP to send to potential bidders. But somehow we got to look at how these routes are. And again, I don't pretend to have the answer, but I believe we got some resources with some of these drivers that's been around. Ronnie, you could probably help me with this. It's been around for 40 years. That would love to help you. Just pick up the phone and call. So let's fix this. There should never be a Mrs. Phillips that comes in here and pours her heart out like what we saw tonight. Shame on us for letting that happen. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I had a situation, and I don't know if we've ever looked at this, about we were giving a student a ride from Howard. He was staying after school, and but he didn't live in Howard District. He lived in Brainerd Zone, and so I was curious as to how. I said, "Well, how do you get to school?" And he says, "Well, I catch the bus. I pay for the bus every day." He pays $1.50 to ride the bus to school every day. And I said, "So you don't have a bus pass? You know, how do you do that?" And he said, "No, I pay $1.50 every day because I want to go to Howard, because when his family moved to Howard, that's where, when his family moved to Chattanooga, that's the school where he attended, and he wanted to continue to go." And then I found out that UTC students have a student pass, and they can get on the bus free. And I'm just kind of like, have we ever looked to investigate to find out, can our students get a bus pass to ride the bus free? Because
yes,
they can. I mean, can we partner with them? I mean, are there, I know we have Coyote Logistics. I know there's so many people that we could possibly partner with.
I know there's several, I just interject just one thing. I think what I'm hearing consensus-wise is that the current structure is one that we need to just kind of start from the bottom, right? Just right. So we're there. Again, I mean, we're there as far as start over, and the current structure is so complex, and y'all know this. I know Ron spoke to it. The current structure is so complex. It's been years and years and years, and you add one more route to, and you kind of add one more route to, and then it gets so complex. And I think they're efficient. I know their efficiencies internally within our system, and so we have to figure out what those efficiencies are, and then build our busing structure around that. But to the point, to have an 80-passenger bus with 15 kids on it, unless it's going to the own school, nobody else is riding the bus. Even at that, we need to figure out what we're doing route-wise. It's just not an ideal situation. So, agree.
Ms. Hill.
Well, I think to Kathy's point, becoming more innovative with what we do, and Joe, to your point about the complexity of routes, something that encourages me is that our economy in Chattanooga is booming in large part due to logistics. And so we are certainly not alone in this. And when we talk about increasing partnerships within the community, I'm certain that Dr. Johnson and our central office staff will reach out to these people who know a heck of a lot about logistics to help us think a little differently about this.
Dr. Bradshaw, is there, in the current contract, are there any accountability measures right now? I mean, like Ms. Phillips said.
Yes,
There are. So, but the board or the county, can we not hold them accountable? If they're in the contract, then we should be, or are we trying and they're just not doing anything? Because I mean, I wasn't in office yet, but she reached out to me and I did what I could to help her. But I get a call every day where, students are getting picked up at 7:30 for a middle school and they're losing probably 20, 30 minutes of instructional time, plus they're not eating breakfast, and that just ruins their whole day, and that's happening almost every single day in some schools in my district. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was looking here, I believe next week, we have a meeting actually with the Durham executives coming in, just because it's a complicated situation. So you had one bidder, and we have to press on them and hold them accountable. And at the same time, we have one bidder, and so it's a very, we got to hold them accountable, without doubt, and we'll continue to do that. I think anything we look at, you're going to have a mix of contract drivers within it. So whether you bring it in house or not, you're going to still have contract drivers just because of the nature of where we are. But we agree. I'll tell you, just looking at it, having been here a year now, and looking at our busing system and how we how we operate it is very unique and interesting, and it's definitely an opportunity.
I was just gonna offer, there was a handful of us that worked through the busing contract 2 years ago, and I know I have a lot of notes from that. I'd be happy to give you guys the history of that at some point, Jenny and Tucker, or I'm sure any of the others that were involved with too, just so you have the history of that.
Dr. Holland.
Let me say that we've had a lot of problems with bus discipline, and young people, we need to firm up our policy to support our people, our administrators and our bus drivers. And I have driven a bus for athletic events and different things quite a bit, and I've maintained a bus driver license. And my heart goes out to these drivers. If you have 40 or 50 kids, and you have 3 or 4 that just will not behave, you have to pull over, you have to stop it. And I think Durham and maybe a contract driver that has an extra bus sometimes has trouble getting drivers, and a lot of the reason they have trouble getting drivers is because of the discipline on the buses. And I would certainly hope that Ms. Lennon, if a new chairman keeps you in that policy committee, which I think you've done an excellent job, that we will firm up some of the bus regulations and help Dr. Bradshaw and Mr. East and their team. But we need to have well-run, orderly buses, and the bus driver's first priority has to be the safety of the children. If he or she is driving down the highway and they have to watch for oncoming traffic, and if they're having to constantly monitor the bus behavior, it's a very, very tenuous task for them to do, and they don't get paid a whole lot. And I'm not trying to excuse contract drivers or Durham, but I'm just saying it's a very difficult job, and we need to support the drivers and the administrators and put some muscle in the policy. Thank you.
Just one quick question I was going to ask, and I forgot to ask, excuse me, Dr. Bradshaw. The coaches, I like that idea. I am curious though, what are we paying them and how are we paying them? Where's that money coming from? Because it obviously wasn't something that was in our budget.
No, it wasn't, but there was some flexibility in the transportation budget. I worked closely with Christy, and what we determined is that if it's a classified employee, they would get the time and a half beyond 40 hours. And if it was a certified employee, they would get $20 an hour stipend. And we anticipate about no more than 3 hours a week. So we don't think there will be misbehavior every day, but they will be available at least a maximum of 3 days a week, 3 hours a week.
We budgeted for monitors, some monitors a lot of time we don't feel, and so we pull those funds down to help leverage towards it.
All right.
Continue.
Before you go, I want to say one more thing. I'm glad to hear about the app because I do know that Durham has, and I don't know if you're talking about Durham's app specifically, but I do have some parents in my district who said, hey, you know, they've got an app, and you know, we can, when the bus is late or it's just showing up 30 minutes late, we have got a phone call, we can find the bus and at least know, you know, where our kids are on the route. So
Absolutely.
Hear that. So yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, our next goal is to establish a long-term plan for facilities maintenance and capital improvements. I know this is a hot topic similar to transportation. In our research, we noticed that the last comprehensive facilities assessment was completed in 1999. Even though we did a local and internal facilities assessment 2 years ago, it wasn't as detailed as what we need. So we're looking at an RFP for that. We want to look at the average age of the building, the average lifespan of the HVAC. We want to move from being reactive to proactive. Right now, we spend a lot of time putting out fires. We also, in October, we're going to look at evaluating the RFP proposals, whoever is interested. In addition to the facilities, we're looking at an RFP for growth so that we can be able to balance our students in different schools. And I shared with Bradley, our new athletic director / campus support specialist, that we also need to probably consider an RFP for athletic facilities so that we can match the building with the athletic facility with the HVAC, so we can kind of get a good snapshot of our district. In November, we're looking at recommending an architect, an engineer, a demographer, and December through May, we're looking at whoever we decide or whoever you all decide does this workforce assessment, actually gathering the information. We have there in February, we need to pause because we know we'll be in a budget season, and some of that preliminary work, we may need to present it to you all to help make some decisions for the upcoming school year. So we hope to provide some findings in February. And our goal is in June of 2019 to bring a comprehensive recommendation to you all.
I'm super excited about this. My greatest hope with this process is that we are able to take our hearts out of it and put our heads into it. And I've mentioned this in another session, but just since everybody's here, I think it's critical that we allow this process to proceed in its own closed environment and not mess with it until the report comes out, and be able to see the pure report and be able to share that with our counterparts on the county commission, so that we all and the public are fully aware of really where Hamilton County stands, so that we can align that with our strategic plan and get done the things we need to do. I'm sorry, this is my first meeting, so I just talk and I will learn the protocol.
That's fine.
I have a question. Where does ADM, the cleaning up the building, fall in all of this?
It's a separate.
Separate, okay.
Yes, ma'am. We are, in addition to many of those fires we put out every day, we do have some current capital projects going on. Central High School, they're getting a new track, it's under construction. Brainerd High School, we're reviewing the contracts, work to begin in October for that track. Howard Middle School, I stopped by there and they are gutting the building, and hopefully we'll open that building in fall of 2019. Lookout Valley Middle and High, brand new tennis courts. Snow Hill Elementary, the new entrance road, and Lookout Valley Elementary, the multi-purpose building under construction. So those are current projects going on in addition to the other day-to-day operational items. Next steps. Our goal is to continue identifying and addressing day-to-day operational needs while establishing a long-term capital improvement projects. 2, monitor the bus coaching program for success and explore opportunities to expand. And finally, ongoing evaluation of bus routes, loads, and stops to streamline services and address safety concerns. So those are the things we're currently working on, subject to your question.
Ms. Robinson.
You may have said this, but just to reiterate, whenever you say long-term plan, how long are you thinking? Are you thinking a 10-year plan?
10-year plan, 7 to 10 years.
Okay. Do you already have a copy of the plan that was built in 1999?
I don't have that copy.
I have one for you.
All right.
It might be helpful, it might not,
Yes.
All right, any other questions, comments there? Thank you, Dr. Bradshaw. All right, now we need to approve the minutes from last month's regular session. Do I have a motion to approve it?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. We have the vote.
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Luna.
Yes.
Mr. McClendon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Chairman Wingate.
Yes. All right, now, on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, do we have any items that we need to pull? Dr. Allen, did you have one, or did you just have your mic on there?
Sorry, just have my
That's all right.
mic. The second.
Any items? Okay, I guess we can vote.
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Luna.
Yes.
Mr. McClendon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Chairman Wingate.
Yes. Okay, that moves us down to Dr. Towns Edwards, Board Policies, first reading.
Thank you, Chairman Wingate. We have presented for your review, based on the review schedule that, we agreed to with the board. We had a, set of board policies that we looked at for the month of September. And so we have submitted for you the, recommendations from the administrative staff, for first read, including, some of the feedback from the board around policy 1.101 and policy 1.03. And then the remaining policies, of course, are submitted based on administrative review. And we submit these for first read, which means that they would not be finalized unless and until you all approve on a second read.
Ms. Thurman.
Yes. The board policy visitors to the schools, I asked Scott about this, and I just was wanting to get some clarification. Since we now have the RAP-FOR system, I have had parents call and say, you know, why do we have to get fingerprinted every year? Our fingerprints don't change. With the new RAP-FOR system and it doing somewhat of a background check, is it necessary to do that every year, since really the only thing in question is from the time that it from one year to the next, if something, they got arrested from one year to the next, and let the RAP system catch that, or is it necessary for them to be fingerprinted every year?
So when we, and I'm looking over again a little bit, so when we looked at system, they have a couple of different tiers. We purchased the tier 1, which deals with sex offender. We can choose, and we can bring forward for the board, we can choose to purchase the tier 2, and they may even have a tier 3 level that goes deeper into criminal background. There's a double-edged sword there, and that we would have to discuss, y'all discuss as a board, but it does have the capability of doing that. We just have to determine if we want to invest in that next tier. And then also there's an operational side for schools as to how they deal with those types of situations when somebody comes in. So, I mean, it has a little bit of everything.
Now, I keep thinking that's what's about $40 to get your fingerprinted for the parents to come in and do that. And that's cost prohibitive. I know we've talked about that. And I just wondered if there wasn't a way that we could find to get around that without, and you said you thought it was statutory. Did you find out?
The statute requires that there has to be a system that complies with the FBI's RAP-BAC report. And so what Dr. Johnson's speaking to, and I guess for the record, Mr. Chairman, what Dr. Towns Edwards was presenting was item Roman 11, and this policy, if you're looking for, is actually in item Roman 12, so we moved down on the agenda. But, so this, what you're talking about, Ms. Thurman, is something that the technology might satisfy, but the board hasn't purchased that technology just yet. And so I think what we need to do is find out, would it satisfy the wrap back requirement of the statute, number one. Number two, are we in a situation where we can go ahead and implement that? Number three, how are we going to fund that? So we're not there yet. So this is the policy.
Well, we don't really need to get real deep about it. We don't need to know, I guess, a lot of things if you were arrested for, for DUI when you were 16 or whatever, I mean, we don't need to know that as a parents get to something. I mean, how far back does that have time if you're going in depth that much? I mean, we're just...
Well, if you're talking about the Raptor system, it has to satisfy the FBI's wrap back.
Well, that's what I say. I don't know what that is. Can you get some clarification?
Well, and that's what Dr. Johnson, I think, says that the administration says.
We'll bring the second and third level and cost for the second and third level to the board for consideration. And then we'll also make sure that everybody understands the potential implications for schools. And
the pros and cons, I'd like to see that.
We'll bring that before the board. We can always, we can always update the policy based on becoming more efficient with the technology.
Yeah, what we have before you tonight, Ms. Durbin, is what the administration thinks is the best approach to be certain that we're providing thorough background checks on volunteers for our students tonight.
I certainly agree. I'm just looking out for the parents that, Marshall Tiffany, and I know Kathy and some of you in your schools have had the same. I think Tucker's even had some people question about that, and so I would like some clarification why that's necessary. If it's necessary, it's necessary, but I just like some clarification.
And I agree, Ms. Thurman, and I would like to, I'll take it too upon myself to see what other school systems do. I don't know, Dr. Johnson, if you know if, to me, you shouldn't have to be fingerprinted every single year. And I don't know if the district where you came from, if they were fingerprinted every year. Do you know? Okay. But I would like to look at that because to me, to me, we are making our volunteers, it's too hard for some of our volunteers, they can't afford it. It's, $40. Plus you have to go get your finger printed. It's hard to go do it. So I'll look into that. I'll take that upon myself to do that.
Dr. Holland.
Thanks, sir. I had mentioned before, and I hope we could do it, I think especially for some of our financially challenged parents, I would love if we could get a mobile unit to go, and if we could find maybe a sponsor to pay for that, and we could go in their communities and fingerprint them, and if we had a corporate sponsor or whatever that could do it, or maybe we could find the funding from somewhere to pay the fee, maybe even though we could not, someone gives a reduced fee to do it. But especially in economically challenged schools, we need those parents there. And if we could do something to expedite it and make it much simpler and easier for them, I'd like to see those. And I'm not talking about just urban. We have rural children that are challenged just as well, and parents that are challenged just as well. But anything we could do to expedite, one of the help organizations that maybe one of the help organizations would take on that is a project to fund that for us. That's just a thought. Thank you.
Ms. Hill.
It's not only expensive, it's also intimidating. It's a time factor, but also an intimidation factor. And I think we need to, over time, as we look at our strategic plan, weigh the realities of our modern world with our desire to have families in our buildings. We know we need more community and parental involvement. We have entire Sunday school classes that want to go volunteer at Lookout Mountain Elementary, and they've been advised that that's going to be very difficult for them to do because of the one-on-one nature of the tutoring that they would be doing. So we must always be logical in the midst of also being safe.
Mr. McLean? I'm going to move on from that policy if that's okay. On policy 1.700, the school board district goals and objectives, I'm just wondering, the issue date was December 16 of 2004, and I know we didn't get to this in our policy meeting. If someone can, are these the same goals and objectives that were passed in 2004? Because if so, then we need to kind of take a step back and put our strategic goals, our strategic plan goals in that, and kind of make sure yearly we're looking at, hey, okay, we did this, let's move on to something else, because, I mean, they're very broad, and and we have to review it yearly, so I think we need to kind of get on top of that.
Ms. Lynn?
I agree. I looked at that myself, and the goals, I think that since we did the retreat and we have new goals, the goals that are in Future Ready 2023 do not match the school district goals and objectives in the policy. So there might be a little, we might need to look at that.
I think what actually happened to the board's credit, part of my route, I had done some work around development of board goals that never officially were adopted. And so I think it's a matter of bringing those goals into the policy and making the policy reflect the board goals that the board worked on even prior to my route. So I agree with you, and that was a good point out from 1.7.
So we can revise and bring back updated language for a second.
Okay. All right. Also, Dr. Towns Edwards, board policies first and final reading.
I have one more.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
On, which one was it, the board self-evaluation, I had a question for Carissa about that, because we discussed it at the policy meeting. A board member shall know and be involved in the development of standards by which they shall evaluate themselves. Carissa, did you say that you had a model? Do you think that you could share that with us? So that
It's a pleasure that I did. I have it in my email right now.
Yes, I would love for you to share that, and that way then when we have that at the retreat, that maybe we could use that, if that's what everybody likes, if you would share that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now on to final readings.
So the following are submitted for first and final read, which is at the directive of the board, that these are submitted for you all to consider and vote to approve today. So just for the sake of time, briefly in the memo, you all will recall at your board policy meeting that was in August, we discussed high school athletics. So we now have the presentation of board policy 4.304 high school athletics based on those discussions. In addition, we have the board policy 4.501 school volunteers, which was another discussion at the August policy meeting that the board had. So now we present that for final read. And then in addition, in the September policy meeting, we have board policy 1.501 visitors to the schools, which we are updating to reflect the Raptor system, which is our visitor management system, as well as guidance on registered sex offenders. We have board policy 1.800, which is the school calendar, which we've updated to reflect the use of our stockpile days, which we used before we will require any additional days of school. And then finally, board policy 1.803, tobacco-free schools. We are complying with state statute, which actually we will refer to this policy as the smoke and tobacco-free schools. And the state statute is very clear that the entire campus shall be smoke and tobacco free. So those three policies were discussed at the September policy meeting by the board and agreed to be presented for first and final read.
Okay, so do we have a motion for board policy 4.304?
So moved, accept.
Second.
Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon.
Yes.
Mr. McClendon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Chairman Wingate.
Yes. Okay, do we have a motion to approve board policy 4.501?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, ready for a vote?
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon.
Yes.
Mr. McClendon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Chairman Wingate.
Yes. We have a motion to approve board policy 1.501, visitors to schools.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, ready for vote?
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs.
Give me a little mic.
Yes.
It's overloaded.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. We have a motion to approve board policy 1.800 for the school calendar.
Well, I still move.
Second.
Okay, ready for the vote, please.
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. Ms. Lennon, would you not like to make the first motion for board policy 1.803?
Yes, I would like to make the motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. Next, we have board policies, second reading.
Thank you, Chairman Wingate. So finally, we have board policies that are up for second read. So these were presented for first read in August, and now we bring them back for second and final approval of the board. Quickly, in the memo, those include board policy 4.601, which is an update on the grading system to reflect a consistent use of TCAP scores at 15%, and it sets the timeline by which those scores would need to be received to be included in student grades at a 15% level. Policy 5.114, personnel records, updates the policy to limit reference checks to approved employees. And then finally, board policy 6.309, zero tolerance offenses. We updated this language to clarify regarding assault towards any staff member as a zero tolerance offense. So we submit these for second and final read.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve board policy 4.601?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, ready for the vote, please?
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve board policy 5.114 concerning personnel records?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, ready for the vote, please?
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate? Chairman
Yes.
Wingate, I'm sorry.
Sure. Forget it.
All right, do we have a motion to approve board policy 6.309 regarding zero tolerance offenses?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're ready for the vote?
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. All right, next we have Ms. Christy Jordan talking about accepting an award and an MOU from the EPB.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what this is. We would like the board to approve the acceptance of a 4-year award for Tyner Academy from EPB and the memorandum of agreement that accompanied that.
Are we voting?
Do you have a question?
Sorry, can you give more detail? What, I'm just curious, what is it?
Yes, the China Future Ready Institute is being supported by EPB, and they're accompanying, there's a budget accompanying it. It's going to primarily consist of technology equipment and some experiential learning for students, and then in the end, I think there are also going to be some potential assistance for dual enrollment fees.
How much are they? How much is the grant for?
It's for $250,000, $62,500 for each of 4 years.
That's awesome. Thanks, EDB. That's great.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we're ready for the vote, please, Ms. Ward?
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Well, of course.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes.
I could real quick, Chairman, I see Blake Freeman back in the back, a little bit back. Blake, you raise your hand, Director of Future Ready Institute. She's done a yeoman's work with partnerships, and we've had several of these over the course of the last several months. So just kudos to you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Blake.
Okay, next under board matters, adoption of the Future Ready 2023. Dr. Johnson, you have any comments you want to make there?
No, you all have seen this plan a couple times. One thing several times. One thing I will update you on is within effective and efficient operations and looking at safety and security in regards to campuses. Ken is working with the Sheriff's Department on a safety checklist that all schools will undergo during the course of the year in partnership with either Tim Harper, our safety officer, or somebody at the county's office, be it an SRO, and ideally you get to the point where it's an unidentified, somebody that's not dressed plain clothes, somebody that's coming in actually doing a safety check around that. So we included that within the plan as far as an action step that we want to take. But this outlines 5 years with annual performance summary. You'll see them filled in for several of the areas around operation. It is our operations. It's the effective efficient operations the first time we've tracked. And obviously, as we go forward, we want to update as we move our work forward as a system. So this kind of sets a trajectory for us and begins to give us a very clear picture. Let me add this. All this is based on the work that the board has done over the course, again, prior to my arrival, just around development of strategic plan and outlining the direction. And so all this is built on that work and kind of does codify the work of this board and the efforts of Dr. Hyman's former chair and this board as a whole going forward. So, any questions?
Ms. Hill?
So first, help me understand, is the hope that we would vote this in tonight as our official plan? Okay, well then, so I'm new, my first meeting. Guess what, guys, I have Post-its again. So this is the first time that I've really had an opportunity to dig in, especially to the KPIs. I was really pleased with the level of detail that the team has put into this, with the board, this vision that's been crafted. But I personally would like to dig into a couple of these sections. Operations is one that stood out to me, as well as the open-ended pieces related to the equity task force and the goals there. Also, I would very much like to have time to share this with my counterpart on the county commission. I don't know if any other board members have already done that, but I know that Commissioner Sharp would be very interested in having some input, and I think would help us long-term to have buy-in on this. Because a big question that I have is, this document is a tremendous plan that would do great things for Hamilton County students as we put this into effect. But I have a big question mark about the revenue that it would require to implement to its fullest potential, and would be very interested to see some projections, really. This is our 5-year plan. What's it going to take to get us there? So I would like more time with this. I see Trevor kind of nodding his head.
How much time?
Sorry, Ms. Jones?
Sorry, Joe. How much time, Dr. Johnson and team, do we have in reference to the ESSA requirements? Because I know this is a component of ESSA as well, right? I guess I'm just curious as to how much time. And then I think I'm just kind of struggling. I mean, I don't mind to review anything in my commission, period. But at the end, it's still our plan, and I think overall, the commission tends to become this big brother to us, and we are our own governing body. So I think it's a difference in deciding what we want to do, and then having a conversation with them. And I get what you're saying, Jenny, because you do want buy-in from their point, but when they make plans over there, and they give tax cuts for buildings downtown, and Tiffany don't have no school for those kids to go to, and you don't even, they don't ask us, and I know that sounds harsh, but they don't. And so I think we have to we want that relationship, and we do, but I think we have to also take onus of the fact that we are elected to be the governing body for our schools and what we feel that best idea is. And I think once we solidify what that is, up until a certain point, then we do have that conversation. I think it's okay to share the draft and get their feedback, but I think ultimately it's ours for the onus.
Certainly, that makes perfect sense. I think that a critical part, though, of the strategic plan, we've talked to families, 23 plus meetings, getting feedback from our families, which is huge. The board has put input in. We've had, it seems to me, a lot of input from the community, but that other third wheel, perhaps, what's that? Oh, I think we would benefit from a better relationship with our other elected leaders, both at the county level and even at the state level. So not to say that, hey, David Sharp, hey, redline this sucker, but hey, this is where we're headed. We know, and this report is remarkable information for anyone in the community to better understand the way standards are changing, the requirements that we have to rise to the occasion for, and then the vision that we have to make it better for every single student in Hamilton County. So I think for my county commissioner to read this and get it would only help us. So I'm not asking for a significantly long delay, but if we could maybe vote on this next month, I personally would feel much more comfortable. I think this is potentially one of the most important votes that I will make as a representative for District 6, and it's just important to me that it be the right vote, or the right document, because I think this document is 90% of the way there. Thank you all.
Dr. Hollinger. Thank you. As former chair, I did take it, I think Tucker called me and talked to me yesterday, and just, we did not vote on anything media. We did not discuss anything on a vote. We just talked about openness and sharing, and I did have Mrs. Ford, who is wonderful to work with. Mr. Wingate, I know you will come to depend on her, as I did, but she did send out a copy of this document, and I know it's only a one-day notice, but she did to I talked to Mr. Smedley, the chair, and sent it out. We did invite him to come today, and of course it was short notice. It was short notice. I mean, it was, but I can certainly see. I agree 100% with Ms. Mosley Jones that it is our responsibility to sign this. I agree 100%, but I also agree with Ms. Hill, and that they are a funding body, and we need to work in unison with them, and we need to tell them why we need the funding for this, and I would like to know what it's going to cost. I would like to know that too.
I'm going to kind of echo what Jenny said. This is probably going to be one of the biggest votes we cast in 4 years, and I'm going to have to follow this document for 4 years, and I didn't really know I was going to vote on it until about a week ago when we got the school board packet. I love the plan. I love it. I think it's where we need to go. But I think, we don't have, there's yellow boxes on here, deferred maintenance, like the $275 million for 2019. Where are we sitting at this year? I mean, I know we probably can't push it back to get the building audit in here, but that's something I would like to know where we stand right now, where we go. And I think I'm on the same page of, hey, let's just extend the arm to the county commission and say, hey, this is where we're headed. We just want to give you a heads up. They're going to have to fund this plan. Without them, this plan doesn't really do its full potential. And then second, we're missing our graduation rates, and I know we'll probably get those sometime in October. So I'm kind of with Jenny on pushing it back a month, if that's okay, and everything with ESSA. I know that we learned all about that at the TSBA meeting, that this is a critical document for that. And like I said, I love it, but I kind of would like some more time and to clean up, because I think this document is like 97% there. I think it has to be. I mean, it's our 5-year.
Please, Scott.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. While I think the board is thinking about how to fund this, and that's certainly something you need to think about. The genesis of this document really is Dr. Johnson's plan for what he hopes to do for this school year, and then to build on and go forward. The reason that time might be important is that this board still has to develop an evaluation instrument for him based on this. And so until you have this, you can't develop an evaluation instrument. And until he gets that, he can't work towards those specific goals. And the big piece is Dr. Johnson uses his instrument to evaluate his principals and his executive cabinet. And so I certainly understand the desire to have more time. His contract actually presupposes that there is a month-to-month flow of this that started in
July.
Well, June with the initial evaluation,
Right.
And then July with his response and self-evaluation, August with the development of this, and so on and so forth. So it's the pleasure of the board, but and I think, and obviously Dr. Johnson has a right to comment on this because this is his contract, but this is the instrument whereby y'all set the roadmaps you hope him to pursue for next year.
If I could add one quick thing that I think is a clarification. I feel as though our relationship with the county is very strong. I've had great dialogue with the mayor and any commissioner that has come. I've shared this plan a couple of times now with Mayor Coppinger, just going through it and making sure he understands the nuances of it. I think some of the things that we're working to get at as far as the anytime you cast a vision, you may have an idea that's going to cost some money, but we won't know every nuance of what the dollar figure is 5 years from now. Some of what we're saying we're going to do is to initiate some things like a building review. That hasn't been done since 1999. We don't know the number, and we won't know the number by next month. We won't know it the month after that. We will know the number, and then when we know the number, we got to bring it to this body, and then we got to say, here's the other thing I'll say. I am big on plans being living documents. In fact, all of our principals have action plans at the building level that are living documents. And our executive directors, Jill and her team, Justin, I'm not here tonight, Justin's team, we sit with the principals. They sit with the principals and they talk about where they are currently within the plan. Because I've seen situations where people write a plan at the start of the year and then they put it up until the end of the year and then it's done. So part of what you saw tonight is an update on about 7 or 8 areas within here. And over the course of the year, you'll be updated on every area within here. Ultimately, this is our plan, even though, the board started it and we refined it and to make a recommendation. So I want you all to feel comfortable with, but I also want to say that I think it's important to know and understand that a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, as we need to make refinements to it, that's all part of the process. So I think to your point, Tucker, the grad rate, if you have some lagging data, if you have some lagging indicators, that stuff comes later. We always update that, and so it's always a lagging indicator. I want to be real clear, again, with the community, we are going to be a learning organization. Our team, Red Arc, a learning organization and continuous improvement. And as a continuous improvement organization, I just want you all to know as you select for however long the tenure is, I don't want us to develop a plan at the beginning of the year and put it up. We should always be, everything we do. So tonight, everything we do is aligned to this. And so it's a living, breathing document. And it's as simple as this. Tucker messaged me about a security piece. And Kathy did too. And so, hey, let's update that right now. Right now, real time. No, that is right. You know what? Matter of fact, Ken is working on a safety checklist, has been for about 2 months. We need to update that. That needs to be implemented. Let's make that a part of the plan to make it tight. So I just say, just as we kind of work through it, I almost like the word action plan because I think it's important. Like it's continuous. So regardless, if we want to be at the board's pleasure, this is something that came forward both. So this is something the board has to feel real good about and understand that that's kind of where it is. I will say for Tucker and Jenny, I know you were at a bit of a disadvantage. We presented this during the month of probably May, June, probably came back in July. It's been over the course of several months that we presented it and refined it and brought it back to the board and shared and kind of gone through the processes of it. to try to get it tight. Went through a cycle this summer where we shared with principals, got feedback, shared with our parent groups, got feedback, and kind of went through that push-pull cycle, and that's what we should be doing at the school district.
Ms. Robinson. Jenny, you brought up potentially waiting to vote, so I was curious, if the board were to decide to not vote tonight on this, what items do you and Tucker want to see more fleshed out? Because what I'm hearing from you guys is that there are questions that you have about the plan, and here's the thing, whenever Kathy and Joe and I came on the board, we voted to delay the choosing the consultancy group, and so I totally understand where you're coming from. So I was just curious, like, what foundational items or what productive items would you want to see take place between now and the next time we voted?
Sure. So sorry, Mayor. Look, I'm learning. I'm a learning organization. Okay, so some of my big picture items. Operations section, as you already can tell, I'm pretty interested in our work there. I felt like this section just isn't quite there yet for me. The key performance indicators to me were things that need to be built out potentially a little bit more. Some questions that I had were, should we be measuring how many empty classrooms we have versus how many overcrowded classrooms we have? Number of portables, the age of our portables. Things like that, that as we look larger at our big picture efficiency items, these feel like real numbers that matter to me as a taxpayer, to me as a mom. And also, this section mentions student safety and school security, and then goes on to talk about how it's not just about physical safety, it's also about mental health, and yet then it's really never dealt with. There were definitely some smaller items that for me are just part of that living document. And then in addition, going back to the accelerating student achievement, the opportunity gap metrics were something that stood out to me as a piece that's just wide open. And I know that before I was elected, the board tabled some work with regard to bringing in some consultants, and my hope is that we will revisit that soon. That was the other thing that especially stood out to me, the action steps related to closing the opportunity gap. And let me just make sure I don't have any other major post-its, y'all. We do have schools that are majority white and majority black, and that is real. And we know that that affects student achievement, and there's nothing about that in this entire plan. And then the funding piece, and the fact that I really want to sit down and talk about this with my county commissioner. That's my list. And in a month, I would personally be meeting with Dr. Johnson to talk about these and just see where they can go, and then meeting with David.
Lynn. I feel good about that it's a living document, saying that it's forever, it's evolving. Just, I had concerns. I had a District 2 Advisory Committee meeting last night, and our big topic was safety. That's the big hot topic right now, and how it's different in each school. So I looked at the Future Ready 2023 plan, and there was a lot of questions, and so, that was my concern. But I realize it is a living document, and we can make changes to it, so we can address your issues that you have, the topics that you want, because it is a living, breathing document that we can, because we are constantly, because we are an evolving district right now, we're every day. So I feel confident about that, because the team and the administration is confident that in our decisions that we're making, that we're all going to have to be, it has to be changing. And with the new members on the board, with what you bring to it, I think what you just said are things that need to be in the document as well.
McLennan. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Turner, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, kind of when I read over the efficient and effective operations, it mentions safety, and then it got added in, and that got added in today, and this version is 9/2018, so it got handed to me when I sat down here, and I've been trying to read it when we get through there. So that kind of bothers me. I mean, there's fewer yellow boxes than there were. Is the ACT not a lagging indicator? Because that's filled in now than it wasn't.
Yeah. Here.
And as in a living document, any changes to it would have to be brought to the board to vote on. As it being a living document, any changes to this document would have to be brought to the board to vote on.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I think it's 97, 98% there. The other board, they've done great work, and they've kind of got their stamp on it of approval. I get we can change it. I feel like, to dive in there and to cast a vote that I say, hey, I'm proud of, I would like to see it, in a month. And I really would like to, this board, it's no secret, this board in the past 5 to 10 years has not had good relations with the county commission. It got kind of ebbs and flows, and I think that needs to be changed. And regardless if this is going to cost any extra money to our budget, which it probably is, and we're going to have to ask for more money because we're bringing schools online, I think it's kind of a courtesy thing to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We can take or leave their input, but I mean, I just think it would kind of be a nice thing to say, hey, this is, the county commissioners I've talked to about it, they didn't really know anything about it. They heard about it, but I think they would kind of like it, especially on the operations side of things. That's just kind of how I feel about it. And
Ms. Turner.
Oh, wait. This document right here is not everything we do in the school system. I mean, in fact, this is his framework. This is what he wants to do. And we're going to grade him on what he says he can do in this. And the odds are we're probably not going to get any more money, so I never go into this thinking we're going to get more money. If you want to do all of this and you need more help, you're going to cut it off out of the budget somewhere else. That's where this board comes in. When it comes budget time, that's when you really dig in and say, where can we save money to do what he wants to do here? And if we give him the money out of the budget to do this and he don't do it, then we evaluate him on it. But there's no way we can put in this amount of pages everything that this board does, every discipline, everything. And I can talk to but this board knows there's a lot of things the school system does that I didn't agree with. The superintendents wanted to do it, and that was their framework, and they either got a majority of the board to vote with them on that. But I don't see this as having to have every little last thing we did, because it's just a framework that he wants to do in here. And like I say, anything does beyond this, we have to vote on. But this is just his framework, and hold him to doing some of this stuff. But some of this stuff's going to be really, really hard to do because I've seen it on the board long enough. Some of this stuff is really going to be, I look over this and I just smile because some of this stuff I've seen so many times. And we just don't hit the mark so many times. And it's going to be hard to do that because it just is. And that's just across the nation, it's not just here. But, close an opportunity gap, okay, that sounds good, let's see what you're going to do it, let you try it your way. So, like I say, I'm not looking for every little tiny thing that we do to be in here, because transportation is a thing all of its own. Maintenance is a thing all of its own. Academics is a thing all of its own. He's just saying, basically, like I say, this is just a framework. It's just basically, I've seen this 1,000 times, every superintendent wants to do basically the same things, it's just how they're going to get there.
I'm sorry. Ms. Jones, go ahead.
I was just gonna move to approve it, either be voted up or voted down. So, but if Dr. Johnson has a comment, then I'll hold it.
Second.
My move.
Well, here's what I'll say. I appreciate, this is great conversation. Like this is what learning organizations do. So there's no issue at all from my context with tabling. It's not something that we want to it's not meant to be divisive. You know, it's something that, you know, hopefully the board would codify unanimously based on the board's initial work. So there's no issue whatsoever with, from my context, for you all tabling and digging in. I will make one point, and I know we had orientation about several weeks ago and went through, you know, at a high level the plan and have updated and talked about the weekly updates and really have tried to communicate it. And so that's something that we try to do on a weekly basis through new board orientation, through, you know, everything that we've done. We talked about Future Ready 2023. So by all means, conversations with commissioners and those types of things, if you all feel it's going to be helpful, there's definitely no issue with tabling the document and us making refinements to it. We don't, you know, have an issue with that. Again, I would say to Rhonda's point, you've seen several superintendents come through and nobody reaches these goals. So remember that when you evaluate me. And I mean that now, Rhonda.
You notice they're all here, don't you?
But this is healthy. It is a great conversation. I'm excited the board is digging in to the document and really pulling the pieces apart. I think we have to be realistic as we work through the document about what we can accomplish. We're not going to be able to put a number on some of these things because candidly we won't know a number. Some of it is lagging indicator. Look here. Let me just speak it like it is while I'm here. I'm in year 2 and I'm just going to be candid. Some of these things have never been performance metrics for. We've never monitored some of these things from a KPI standpoint and set a target year over year. The whole annual performance page is a new thing.
It's good stuff.
Most school systems don't have, even the school system I came from. It was very, we didn't even get this. We had KPIs that we worked with internally, but we didn't necessarily articulate them to the public from this context. So there are very few school systems you'll find that dig into KPIs this way and try to push it forward. It's a testament to this team and the kid and everybody working collaboratively to try to get there. So I think it's a healthy conversation to have. Again, I would say from my context, I've had more conversations with Mayor Coppinger around it and just making sure that he understands as mayor, you know, where we're trying to head. And I've told him, you can't put a dollar on what it's going to take because some of that's going to come as a result of, okay, we got to do RFPs. We got to get some experts in here to do that. And some of this just begins to set that action forward. And as you set that action forward, your KPIs can shift and change and get more granular as you get better. You know, and so I would caution us on that. Your KPI, like we all know in particular Tucker and Jenny, you know where you want to be your 10, but some of these things we've never measured. So, you know, let's be realistic. Year 1 KPIs, let's do an RFP. Let's get a hold on where we are as a system. And then year 2, okay, now let's measure how many portables we have. Let's track how many we want to reduce it by, you know, and those types of things kind of as we go. But I think Ken mentioned it earlier. We're like, in a lot of regards in operations, we're like hamsters on a wheel. And Justin was still back there. We're just chasing stuff because we've got so much need. So.
All that being said, I move to table this until.
So I think we had a motion already on the floor. We had Ms. Jones had a motion to vote, and
Second.
Dr. Highlander had a second, so we need to do that first, right? Or do we have to?
A motion to table takes precedence
Okay.
over the main motion.
Yep.
I will say if the board moves to table this, then the board's still going to have to come up with an evaluation instrument that's going to look a lot like this, and you're going to need to do it for the next couple of weeks.
Hey, ask a question about that. I was going to say the time frame. We are already past the time frame for establishing the evaluation process, and Mr. Wingate was over that. He may continue it or put something else over it, but and I think he and Dr. Johnson have worked together on this for his instrument. I think there are a lot of good things in it. I think there's some other things that we need to put in our evaluation in addition to what's in here that we come up with. But I think we do need to get, we are already a month over the contract, correct me if I'm wrong, on having his evaluation instrument prepared. And we are violating the contract that we have with him already. And so while I agree with Tucker and Jenny that many things, and in a way I would like to table it, but I think we need not to, or if we do table it, we still have to go on with an evaluation instrument, whichever way the body prefers. But we have to get an evaluation instrument before the next meeting.
Yes, and and obviously you all have seen a draft of that, and as I communicated through email, for you all to be thinking of and having any recommendations, questions, concerns about the instrument, that we would definitely meet after this meeting to try to shore that thing up. So, Ms. Robinson, I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, go ahead.
No, I was actually just gonna say, seeing that it's a living document, I think, and I just wanna put this out there, and I get it for those that are doing to the board. But seeing that it is a living document, I think those things that are being requested can still be done even if we voted tonight, because we'll have to have we're gonna have to have a retreat this year. We're gonna be working on things, and so if it changes then, we'll just alter that. But I do think we have an obligation to fulfill what we said we were gonna do last strategic planning session, and to make sure that we're doing what we have agreed to do as far as Dr. Johnson's contracts and his evaluation. I just think there are certain things that we are obligated to do, even though we do have new members on the board. It's just always a moving pieces and moving wheels, and it doesn't mean, once again, because it is a living document, that we can't go in and alter things as we have new strategic goals put in place, as there have been discussions placed and concerns come up, and they say, oh, we can do such and such and change that. Because, like I keep saying, because it is a living document. It's not like we vote on it tonight, it's set in stone, and you can't go back and change anything. But I mean, I would like for us to see us move forward with what we're obligated to do as a board with our superintendent, and as well as what we're obligated to do as a district to our students in the school.
Mr. Smith.
I want to be sensitive to Tucker and Jeannie, and she asked some very valid questions that she and I'll butt heads over some of the questions she asked, but I want to be sensitive to what their positions are. So just for point of clarification, play this out, we move forward, we approve this tonight. Can somebody, whoever that would be, make the commitment to Tucker and Jeannie to spend some significant time with them to make sure they understand, address their questions. And if they want to come back next month and amend or add something to this document, what I'm hearing is that would be okay. Is that right?
That would be okay, and in fact, I almost think it's maybe even a better recommendation if the board, or to add to that, if the board adopted tonight, once we retreat, obviously in between that, haven't had conversation, kind of coming back and reestablishing based on the feedback that they both have given and anything that comes out of that retreat, so that we have a kind of finalized plan. But again, it's got to be the board's pleasure.
Let me say too, Tucker and Jeannie, I know where you're coming from, because as Tiffany said, we got on board here right when we're about to make a vote, and that was going to be a vote that was going to set a direction that was going to that we were not going to be able to walk back from. And that's why we were so concerned. And I do understand. I think this is a little different in that, as Dr. Johnson has said and others have said, this is not a point of no return. I mean, we all are excited about the Future Ready Institutes, the things that this team has put together in looking out and looking 5 years ahead and where we want to be in achievement-wise. And I really think this is it's an opportunity to go ahead and say, yes, pursue this, attack this, and then let us come back along after retreat, after being able to talk. And as Tucker said, I mean, we're going to have to, any adjustments made to this document and to this plan have to pass the board's approval anyway, and that would be the same as any their recommendations or any member of the board's recommendations. So I just think we're okay to go ahead and pass this thing. I don't think we're out on the edge of a cliff that we can't come back from, because again, it is a living document. It is something that we're probably all going to want to make adjustments to at some point after being able to retreat and talk and even hear new ideas that you guys bring to us. So
And so far, in the conversations in the meetings that we have had as a board in my very, very short time here, I've had many things said to me that were, well, that's not final, or that's not important because, or we have to vote because Dr. Johnson's gonna quit tomorrow if we don't do this because we need this. Some things are very important. And I'm okay to rescind my request to hold, but I will say tonight that our kids matter a lot, and if every time we make a document we say, yeah, but, then the document's not worth the paper it's printed on. So there are some things, yes, living documents, I get it, but there are some things that I feel like this board and our community need to put in writing and say, these things don't change. These are our big 5, our big 10, and we're in it for the long run, regardless of what the economy does, regardless of what new law comes down. This matters to Hamilton County Schools. So I will vote tonight, and I will vote in favor of this because it is a darn good plan. But in the future, just know that I'm not always gonna say okay.
I agree with that.
I withdraw my motion officially.
I agree with that, and that's why I didn't second the motion. I think kind of what Joe said, it's not fair for us to kind of hold back this document when we can come back next month after we kind of, dove into it, talked to Dr. Johnson and his team and what changes we want to be made. I do think I agree with Jenny that this is not something that we need to change every single month or even 3 or 4 times a year. I think this needs to be, yes, it's a living document, and if something happens that needs to be changed, but I think out of respect for the board's work prior and so we can get this evaluation tool going, I'll vote in favor of it. But I really, really want to see, in a month where any concerns I have, any concerns Jenny has, any suggestions we have are brought to the board so we can have our touch on this, because we do have, like I said, live with this docket for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Just one quick thing I'll add, Jenny, to kind of echo what you're alluding to. So when you look at the 5 areas, I think those 5 areas: accelerating student achievement, future-ready students, great teachers and leaders, engaged community, and efficient, effective operations. Those are the 5, right? So, within there, every year, I believe we should be coming back and saying, okay, we're moving from implement now to we should be refining our process, or we should be taking it to the next level. And so we should be really reviewing it on a yearly basis. We should be, with truth to the 5 being there, and saying what's happening within the 5 that we're really churning to move the work forward as a school system. So I would echo in that, there shouldn't be a lot of movement. There won't be. I don't the movement unless the board decides, in regards to what are the 5 things that you're committed to. What are the 5 things? It's the same thing in every school system: operations, teachers and leaders, and academics.
Call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Parliamentarian, since Ms. Hill has removed her motion to table, and we already had,
you go back to the motion,
so we can go to the vote. We had a motion and a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so vote to approve the plan.
Dr. Highlander?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. McClendon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Chairman Wingate?
Yes. All right, that brings us to events and announcements. October 8th through the 12th, fall break. October 16th through November 3rd, schools choose 30th, sorry. Yeah. Schools choose one extended day for parent-teacher conferences, and also first half administrative in-service. October 15th, teacher professional development, and those students on that day. And October 18th will be our next board meeting. And as I said earlier about the instrument, I think we are almost there, unless you all are just completely unsatisfied with what you've received. So I will try to get with Ms. Ford, and let's see about collaboration on a date that we can get together and try to finish that up. Do we have any other events or announcements?
I know you all love having policy meetings, but we do have to have another policy meeting because we haven't finished the September policies, and they are optional. You do not have to come, but I want to thank Nakia again and Ms. Ford for your diligence in helping with this, and Dr. Johnson as we move through this process because it hasn't been done in a long time. But we're making progress, so thank you very much. And I will send an email out to maybe expedite it a little bit to ask for volunteers to go through some of the September policies and bring them forward to finish them up, because we have a lot to still go through from our end, I think. What, I thought there were still some on
There's still some in, there's still some in section 1. There's still some in section 1 that we didn't get to.
The board did not get through. You all did a good job, we didn't.
Ms. Robinson?
Yep, I just wanted to ask, can we start looking at dates for our board retreat? We typically do it in like October, November, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's coming up. And are we going to have additional committees aside from policy?
Good question.
Okay.
We probably need to have that discussion because we've done a couple different things the last couple of years, so that's something we can talk about maybe at a policy meeting. Dr. Highlander.
If we're going to have a policy meeting and a contractual meeting, are we going to try and have them together or have two separate meetings?
I'd love to do it at one shot, but that'll be up to the will of the board.
I would also, but I just wanted to suggest that, to do it at once if possible.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Just to communicate, and we'll get the information to Sherry, because I think every parent in Hamilton County needs to know about tech savvy. We've got a nationally known speaker. Hickson United Methodist Church has pulled this together, and there was a student up there not too long ago that committed suicide. So that church really got a heart to educate parents about what's going on the internet and Facebook and bullying, and so they're bringing in this nationally known speaker, and we'll get all the information to you, Sherry. So let's let every parent in the county know about this.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman Wingate. Good job.
Don't leave.
Adrian.